In 1971, an 11-year-old boy named Colin Robson was digging the garden of his family's house in Hexham, England, when a shovel hit something buried in the dirt. He pulled it out and it looked like a tiny human head. A little bit later, his younger brother Leslie found a second one. Now the boys, they brought him inside, and the heads, well, they allegedly started turning when nobody touched them. Glass shattered over one of the children's bed, and then all of a sudden there started being a mysterious light that had been seen over the exact spot where the heads had been taken from the ground.
Then the neighbors saw the thing, a dark figure moving through the house, shaped like a person, but carrying something animal in its body. And when the heads were sent away to Dr. Anne Ross, a respected Celtic scholar, she woke one night freezing cold and terrified as a dark, part animal, part man figure left her bedroom and moved into the hallway. So tonight, the question is simple. What if those heads were never meant to be found? What if they were buried because something in Hexham needed to stay buried? Welcome to Deceptive Reality. My name is Nick, and I'm here with the excellent Bert, and I'm in for a special treat because I don't know this story at all.
You know, everyone gives us a tough time about that. Back in the day, they was like, how is it that you guys have a podcast? It's a reputable podcast, and you don't know anything about the stories every single week. And, you know, to be honest with you, I loved that format because at least every other week I was surprised with a story that I might not have known anything about.
Right. Well, I mean, it's exciting because it's not like neither of us knows the story. One of us knows the story and we're telling it to the other. Correct. And then we get sort of like live reactions of it. And I find that exciting for me.
I think the only problem we had with the old way that we used to do it is having the narration do it. I think it's a lot better if we do it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe that's what we should do. Maybe like every single week we bring a story. The other person doesn't necessarily know until we get to the podcast. And then if they know, great. If they don't know, then that's great too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then we could have others where we sort of do joint investigation on it, which there's some that lend themselves better to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Like when we do Bigfoot ones or whatever, that's much better if we both bring stuff into it. But
yeah, for sure. This is one of those ones that I'll be honest with you, I didn't know anything about this until about a week ago.
They sometimes just present them to ourselves. Like it just appears.
It's crazy because, you know, for anyone that doesn't know, we utilize AI a decent amount here. And the new thing with the AI that I've been doing is resurfacing stories that maybe I've not heard of. And I'll be honest, you know, I've picked a lot of stories, and then when I go in to do it, I'm like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this story.
Yeah. That's going to happen a lot. And then some of the things it tells you is not true. That's why we can get the ideas from them, like things that are popping up, but you really got to dig into it with your own research and your own reading. Correct. And stuff like that. But it's still, I mean, if you do it every week for over 3 years, sometimes you need outside sources. Like the last one, the GATE program, started popping up on TikTok, and that's how I thought to look into it further and gather information. And then it all started to click to our real lives.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's a cool thing, man. Sometimes you just never know where inspiration is going to be found.
That's right.
This story is going to have what I call a little bit of everything that we typically talk about.
All the spices of life.
All the spices. And I think there's going to be a section that you are going to be very well versed in, probably more so than me.
Oh, interesting. Well, I'm waiting with bated breath, like they say, for that part.
Well, you know, a lot of our haunting stories, and I'm gonna preface this as this kind of falls in line with what sounds like a haunting in the beginning, but I don't believe this is a haunting at all.
What? So I did read ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a cursed object?
No.
Okay. Interesting.
So long and short of it, this entire thing started with the Robson family. Now, the Robson family, they bought this house, they moved in, and basically the house was kind of overgrown in the back. And they had two sons, and the two sons basically had chores. Back in the 70s, kids, you know, if you were a child in a family, you were doing some form of a chore, and you weren't getting
That's why
paid for it.
families were. Yeah, that's why families were so big back then.
Exactly.
You could run a whole industry out there.
Exactly. The interesting thing about this story is I found a lot of information that was incorrect. Now, I think I've corrected 90% of it. A lot of people says that this case happened in 1972, but the actual facts in the matter, I believe, is 1971, because I found out who had the article that we're talking about in 1972.
Okay.
So it couldn't have started in 72 if the research that was done on this happened in 72. So
Right.
basically, there's these two boys are out in the backfield, and what they wanted to do of the chores and what they called it was like a spring clean. Was it was kind of overgrown. There was vegetation all over the place, and it was an 11-year-old. His name was Colin Robson, and his brother Leslie. Now, his brother Leslie was a little bit younger, and they said, you know what, we'll clean and clear out the vegetation back there, and we'll try to make the place look a little bit less abandoned. And while they was digging, and I'm sure you've probably done it, I know I've done it about a half dozen times, but you know, they're out there, and while they're out there, they got the shovel. And while they got the shovel, they're, you know, scooping and scooping, and all of a sudden they hear clink. Now, typically when you hear that clink, you've hit some type of a big rock. You know what I'm saying?
Mostly that.
I had a video back in the day when I first started playing around with doing like videography. And it was me digging in the front yard. And all of a sudden in the video, you hear clink. And then you see me, I'm going clink, 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 clink. And basically it was me just throwing down the shovels like a little short video. Well, that was these two boys. You know, Colin was out there. He hears that clink, and he can't figure out what's going on. So like anybody, you hear the clink, you got to move the rock. If it's a big enough,
right,
you're not going to be able to dig through it. It's just easier just to dig down, take whatever it is out, keep moving. So as he's digging down, he finds that it's not a rock at all. It's a small carved head. And then shortly after him, next to him, he hears clink, clink, clink. He looks over, and his brother Leslie is also hitting something that's like a rock, and they start digging at that one, and they find a second carved head, both buried in the garden.
Man, think of the odds of that if there were only two there, and all of a sudden they found them almost at the same time, digging in separate places.
Yep.
That's destiny.
Remember this moment.
Oh boy.
And put a pin in it, because we're going to talk about that at the end, because there's some theories.
We're bringing those.
There's some
We're
theories.
bringing those pins back.
That's right. Just the way I like it. So the heads that was basically found was roughly 6 centimeters high, which is about 2 inches. If you're thinking about it, be like the size of like a tennis ball or like maybe a tangerine, that's probably a good example of, you know, what that size would be. But they were round. They was kind of strange looking. But the interesting thing was, even though it was kind of a short and rounded head, there was almost like a little stump where a neck would be. And some people, even in the notes, they called them tenons. So it'd be like neck tenons to a degree. And that matters because they thought that maybe at some point they would have been attached to a larger statue, or maybe like a pedestal, or maybe some type of like a shrine structure.
Oh, that's interesting. It's kind of related, but you know, we always had the heads on Easter Island.
Yes.
for whatever reason, under the ground is buried full bodies with those.
Yes. I'm glad you said that.
Ah.
Put a little pin in there.
This brings back memories, yeah.
Yes, and it's going to as we go. Now, early analysis of these heads show that it was a coarse sandstone with a mineral mixture inside of it. At least that's what a lot of the scholars said that tested these heads. Now, I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but it's because I want you to understand the dynamics of the head. And inside that Google Drive, and I'll probably put it in the video right here, there's actually pictures of these heads and even from the old newspaper. So when you look on there, you're going to be like, what the heck is this spooky looking stuff?
You know what they look like? You
What?
ever remember when Mad Balls were a
Oh, yeah.
popular thing? They look like those.
Well, and that was similar to what they described. They basically described it as two different things. There was one that they designated as what they called the boy head. One of the heads that usually describe it is a little bit more masculine than the other. And they say it looks kind of skull-like. It's got a wide open face, wide set eyes, a long, broad nose. They said that his hair looks like it was almost etched by a tool that was scraping it onto the back of the head, and it runs from the front of the head all the way to the back. Now, the color of it is kind of hard to tell in those pictures that's there, but it was like a greenish gray, and they talk about that it glistened almost like sparkles to a degree from the crystal quartz that was in there.
Oh, okay.
Now, we've talked about quartz quite often. And we've got some theories on that too, and which we'll get into that a little bit, but it wasn't polished at all. It wasn't a beautiful stone. If anything, it just kind of looked rough. The second one they designate as one of two things, either the girl or the witch head.
Oh, interesting.
And they say
head.
They say it's because it's way more disturbing. And they said that no matter what it is, it's definitely a female head. But they said that it's a lot more of a severe expression. So it almost looks like it's mad, or they describe as being almost wall-eyed. Maybe even like bulging eyes. They said the nose is actually pretty like beaked designed. And the hair is actually etched down the sides of the skull and looks like it's pulled back in a little bun is the way they describe it. Now, later, the interesting thing about that one is that stone had traces of red and yellow mineral pigment, or like a paint where the hair and the crevices of the actual carvings was found. So it wasn't just plain stone. They actually had features and they had faces. But the fact that there was almost like paint on the one definitely stands out.
I keep bringing up different historical facts, but you know how we think of Rome and all the statues there, and they look just like they're plain marble or whatever.
Yes.
Well, back in their heyday, they would have been painted pretty lifelike.
Right. And that's the Celtics also, or Celtics also had a lot of this too. I'm going to say Celtics the entire day, the basketball team. But the Celtics. The Celtics also had a lot of that also, which we're going to be talking about that at the end also.
Okay.
Now, the interesting thing is, like a boy, have you, like when you was a young kid, Nick, did you ever go out in the backyard and ever bury or dig things up ever?
All the time. All the darn time.
Me too. When you find something cool, what do you typically do?
Well, I had a little chest that I would put things in and put my collection all together like a treasure chest, like a pirate chest.
I think we've all got something, right?
Yeah.
Well, Colin and Leslie, they were no different. They dug up these heads and they brought them inside. The first thing they did was wash the heads off. So they kind of cleaned the heads, made them look presentable. And what they was amazed by, because at first they saw only a few things, but there was so much mud that once they started cleaning it, the faces started coming out and they're like, oh crap, like what do I got here? So they showed it to their parents and they was like, look at this crazy thing we found out in the backyard. Parents didn't think anything about it. And at first they were all excited. They're like, holy crap, like this is like the holy grail. We're out digging and we find this stuff.
Right.
Like This would be like, for me, I found a Indian head one time that was buried, and you would have thought I found $1 million as a kid.
Right. Well, I mean, I would be pretty excited about that too, finding an arrowhead, right?
Yep, arrowhead.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be pretty pumped about that.
And, it's funny. Whoever gets the property that once, I'm dead and buried, once they get the property at my parents' house, like the one that I grew up in, if they ever put a metal detector back there, there's a ton of coins buried in that backyard that I buried and I could never find. I could never find
them. Dang it.
So it's like, dang it, man. They're sitting on at least $1.25.
I'm gonna call up your mom. I'm gonna be like, "Can I bring my metal detector over?"
It's probably a good idea. But yeah, so they did the same thing that we would have done. They brought these things in. They were super proud of it. Showed their parents. Parents like, yeah, man, that's cool. Like, who would have thought you'd find something like that in the backyard? So what they ended up doing was they placed the heads up on this shelf in the living room, and they was all excited about it, and they end up going to bed. Well, the next morning they get up and the family noticed something very weird about the heads. Both of the heads that was on the shelf turned in the direction to where their eyes was facing where they was unburied.
Oh, that's really interesting. Like they're always looking towards. Wait, so hold on. Let me make sure I get this straight. So they stare at where they were dug up from.
At least this time.
Is that what you're saying? Oh, interesting. Starting to build theories.
You're gonna need them because there's a really good theory at the end of this that I think might be it. But the faces are facing this direction, and everyone's like, dude, that's weird. All but one sister, the eldest sister, Wendy, she had just returned home from a honeymoon, and she thought that her two little brothers just playing a trick, right? Oh, it's funny.
Right.
The interesting thing is, and the story talks about this too, Colin, not long before that, for a class project, he had built a head that looks similar to the heads they found.
Oh, the little sneak maybe made them, is what she's probably thinking.
That's what she's thinking. She's like, he's already, made something similar to this before. He got up in the middle of the night. He turned these things. Clearly there's something there, that's them. It has nothing to do with anything else. They're trying to scare us. So in typical format, she's sister. She's not playing no games. She said, you know what? There's one way that I can guarantee that this is going to stop. She takes them and she puts them underneath her bed that she's sleeping in.
Oh.
And she basically said, that's the end of that. If they're legit, let them move.
Okay. I think I can predict what's going to happen next.
So the next morning she wakes up. She looks over and it's no longer under the bed. It's on the end of her bed, looking, guess where? In the same exact spot that they was unburied from. So now she's like, I don't know how that can happen.
Right.
But that is extremely abnormal. It doesn't make sense at all. So
I thought they were just going to turn, but to move out from under the bed, that's escalation there.
Is escalation. And the entire thing of escalation, it basically two-folded quick. Like within the next series of days, they started having what was known as poltergeist activity that was happening around the house. So they were, and it's all the things that we typically talk about. The biggest one was household objects was being thrown inside the house, including the heads.
Right.
Glass bottles was mysteriously just shattering.
Oh, okay.
One of the most disturbing things is the youngest Robson daughter's bed. She would be laying in bed at nighttime and just glass would shatter above her and spread all over her bed.
Oh, that's terrifying. I would never have glass above my bed like that.
No. And it didn't happen just once. It happened multiple times. We're talking repeatedly.
At some point, you've got to be a parent and say, you know what? Maybe I won't have sharp glass pieces above my child's bed.
Well, that's the thing. It wasn't always glass that was above her bed, but glass
Hmm.
was shattering above her bed.
Oh, oh, like maybe bottles were brought above her bed and smashed,
That's
or
the theory. The story doesn't specifically
oh,
say, but it didn't say that she had anything above her bed.
okay. Well, that makes more sense. I was starting to think that they were neglectful parents there for a second.
Nope. I think it was a case where, and a lot of times they didn't even know where that glass that was breaking was coming from. They didn't even know
Hmm.
sometimes.
Okay.
So it's kind of like when we talk about this kind of activity that's happening, it's almost like once it gets to poltergeist activity, it's almost like it's trying to physically affect the family to where they're not
Hmm.
sleeping right. They're in a constant
Right.
state of fear.
Hmm.
And this is something where, again, the children's being directly affected.
Right. Well, yeah. A lot of stories say they feed off children of a certain age. I think usually a little older, but you never know.
Correct. Now, a very interesting part of the story that I found was it was one night the mom and the dad was outside and they was looking around and you've got all this poltergeist activity that's happening and they happen to catch something out the corner of their eye and they look over in the area where they had been digging and where the head was found
Hmm.
and there was a glowing orb that was above the exact spot where the head was the two heads was unburied from.
Hmm.
So they were just staying static in one spot, not moving, and then they would just kind of disappear into the foreground and it'd be gone. They had seen it, I think, multiple times.
Oh, that's wild. That's a definite step up from an orb, but it sounds like the same kind of thing.
Correct. Now, what makes it even more interesting is again that spot that we're talking about. All of a sudden, there's a flowered plant that started growing in the exact spots where the heads were that
Oh,
are not native to the area at all.
oh
And
really?
some said that they had a what do they call that?
Oh,
Bioluminescence?
bioluminescence?
Yes,
Oh, man, this is total HP Lovecraft story right here. This
kind
is
of feels
freaking
that
me out
way,
a
don't
little
it?
bit.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And they sell those plants now where I'm at. Actually,
Mhm.
Home Depot has them. And
Right. A lot of them are engineered though. They're not even like
correct,
growing naturally like it would have been in this field.
correct. And that's what I was going to say. You think about it, you can buy those things now, but in the 70s, this stuff didn't
Right.
exist. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah. I've seen there are like different bioluminescent plant life naturally, but they're typically not growing in England somewhere.
Correct.
Crazy.
What a wild story, right?
Mm.
So, if you think about it, this family, they find the two heads. Now, understand there was no activity that was happening in the house before this.
Right.
So everything was completely fine, not a problem at all. They bring these two heads in, they clean them up, they put on the shelves. All of a sudden, the heads start pointing in the direction that they was brought out of the ground in. Then the sister's like, I know what these brothers are doing. She takes the
Mhm.
two heads, put them underneath the bed. Next morning, she wakes up. They're on the end of her bed, and again, facing the direction of where they came out of the ground. Just a little bit later, things start breaking around the house. Things are thrown, including the heads. And then on top of all that, the poor youngest daughter, she gets shards of glass being thrown on her bed on almost a constant basis to where she had to move out of the room. Got so bad.
Oh, wow.
And now all of a sudden they see the orbs out in the backyard. They see the plant growing and they're like, what is
Mhm.
going on? Like this entire property is no longer feeling safe.
Right. And these are such unrelated items. Like they're facing where they were buried. Well, do they want to be buried or not want to be buried? There's
Right.
glass smashing for people who weren't even really involved in the situation. There's glowing orbs. There's strange bioluminescent plants growing. Like, what's the connection here other than these heads were near it?
Correct. Now, I don't know where you live, Nick. We've talked about,
Mhm.
sometimes when we're doing the podcast, you can hear you can hear people walking. Do you have like neighbors that's near you?
Oh yeah. In like this house is 4 units.
Yeah. So like, this is kind of the same kind of deal. And I want to bring this up. So like here, we would
Mhm.
call that like a townhouse. It's 2 houses.
Right.
It's technically one house that's basically separated by the wall.
Yeah.
This house was the same way. There was a family on the other side. So of course they hear
Oh,
all this
okay.
stuff going on. They're like, what is happening over there? Like, that's such a very weird thing.
Hmm.
They're starting to hear rumblings from this family and they're like, they must be crazy. Like, but it was
What has moved into our neighborhood? This
exactly.
is
And there was only one wall that was between the 2 families. So they're legit hearing like glasses breaking and people screaming and kids crying. And it was their neighbors was the Dodds was their name.
okay.
And, unfortunately, when you're part of a house like that, sometimes you'll have things happen that you're like, why is this now happening to me? Like, this is their haunting.
Mm.
So all of a sudden, the Dodds family, there's a situation where they're starting to deal with some different things also. And they're starting to notice some weird activity that's happening. And, they're
Oh.
talking to the Robbins family and they're like, what is happening? And the Robbins keep talking about things like, they're starting to have headaches now. In which, I think that could be somewhat maybe some stress induced stuff,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Lack of sleep causes that.
But they're talking about all this stuff and, the Dodds are kind of taking it in. They're like, okay, well, whatever, it sounds like a scary thing. Well, anyway, the neighbors, that's Nellie Dodd, and she has a daughter named Marie that has a ear infection. They're up late at night one night.
Mm.
And, if you've got kids that have any kind of sickness, sometimes you're up with them all night, especially with ear infections and stuff like that. And in the 70s, when things were not necessarily as easily treated as they are now, but she's
Right.
up, kind of taking care of her. And all of a sudden she's talking, very quietly to her son because his son's he's got something going on. And she's like, what's happening? And he's like, Mom, come here. Like, I need something. I need something real quick. So she goes over there and she's like, what's happening? And he goes, I feel something pressing down on my legs. And she's
Mm.
like, you feel something like touching your legs? He goes, no, pressing them down. And she's like, well, that's kind of weird. But she kind of let it go. And it was weird because, as they're dealing with this infection and stuff, sometimes it goes on for multiple days, but all of a sudden now her kids are getting reported that their hair's getting pulled. Now, just the kids, they're not dealing with anything.
Okay.
So like in the other household, the other side, now their
Mm.
kids are starting to get activity.
And they're getting haunted and they never even got any cool stone heads out of it. That's
They
unfair.
didn't. Not at all. So all of a sudden, Nellie, one night she's in bed. She's finally getting a little bit of sleep, a little bit of relaxation. And she wakes up because she hears a noise and she kind of leans up and she's looking. And all of a sudden, she sees this dark figure. Now, the way that she described this dark feature is it's almost like she said it had like a man's head,
Mhm.
but the body was half sheep.
Half sheep.
Half sheep.
Now that's an interesting one. If you're making something up, I don't think that would be in your top 30 go-tos.
Correct. Now, there was a few other versions where they said that the family had later saw it was the torso of a man, but the head of a ram. So there was a few variations, but it all comes back to the sheep. But in everything that I saw where she described it, that's how she described it. It was like the body of a sheep and the head of a man,
Mhm.
because she said when she would look and over at it to see what was going on, it would look over at her, turn its head,
Yeah.
and as it would walk away, she could hear the clumps of the hooves.
And that's very much like a satyr almost. Like normally they're the body of a goat and the top half of a person kind of thing. But
Right.
yeah, it sounds like that.
It's
Hmm.
kind of weird. It's kind of weird that that's what they would come to. So it was a few nights later that earache came back on the little girl again. So she's laying in there
Mhm.
with the little girl, and her son starts yelling again, Mom, Mom, whatever this is touching my legs again.
Right.
So she goes over and she's like, honey, there's nothing here. There's legit nothing here. So she's laying
Mhm.
beside him, trying to calm him down before she has to go back in because her daughter, she's kind of starting to doze off. All of a sudden, she feels something get up off of the bed,
Oh,
but she doesn't see anything. But she felt something get off the bottom of the bed and almost
right.
like she could hear a little bit of something, but she couldn't quite tell what it was. A few minutes later, she heard a scream.
Oh boy.
It's her daughter. So she goes into her daughter's room again, and her daughter says that she saw something. Would you like to take a wild guess what her youngest daughter saw?
Was it the animal man again?
It was the animal man. So
Ah.
the interesting thing about what her daughter said was the scary part was that she heard hooves clicking as it walked away.
That would disturb you in the middle of the night, like in a dark room. When you just hear something, you hear clop, clop, clop.
Exactly.
Yeah, that would bother me. That feels demonic.
And a lot of people can say, and even we've said it, like when we did the Wildwood Sanitarium, we was
Mhm.
talking about all the weird noises that we hear. That would be one of those noises that there's nothing else that can describe what that sound is. Like
Right,
that is clearly hooves on a wooden floor. Like there's no
mm,
other thing that makes that sound.
right, and your mind immediately goes to all the old stories of devils and stuff with the cloven hooves and all that kind of
Correct.
thing. Yeah. Alright, time to move.
Pretty much. And that's what's funny because, the Robsons are on the other side. They're hearing the screaming.
Mm,
So they run over. They think that there's something going on and they start talking and they're like, this is what we saw. This is what's happening. And just exactly what you said, the Robsons like, we're out. Like
oh,
we're
that's
not,
it?
we're not dealing with this anymore. But they
Mm,
kind of piece together, you know what? It has to be something to do with these heads because we
right.
move in, we find these heads. They weren't having an issue before we got here. This is
Mhm.
our fault. We need to figure out a way of getting rid of these heads.
Yeah.
So they start contacting some different people and they took them to Hexham Abbey.
Mhm.
And they was hoping that maybe someone there could explain, what it is. So there was this lady, Dr. Ann Ross, and I'm reading this. We got a complaint
Yeah.
last week because someone said, you guys are reading this info and you're supposed to be researching. I am. Get over it. Can't remember all this. But anyway, Dr. Ann Ross, she was a highly respected Celtic scholar that was connected to Southampton University. So this is all she dealt with. And a lot of the things that she dealt with had to do with different stones or relics or carved things like that was her niche.
Right.
So she said, listen, I would love to take these to try to figure out a little bit more about them, kind of dig into maybe what this is. She went over to the house. She looked at the area that it was unburied from. And she ends up taking them home. She's got a ton of these things in her house, so it's not
Mm.
uncommon. And she gets them in there. She gets them all set up, and yeah, things didn't go well for her.
Oh. Is Goat Boy back?
Interesting you say that. No.
Mm. Oh, okay. Okay.
So the first night that she's got them, she wakes up at 2 a.m. and she's freezing cold, like freezing
Mm.
cold. She looks up because she's trying to figure out this is a woman of science.
Right.
And she sees a 6 foot tall shadowy figure leaving her bedroom but she said it was half wolf, part man.
Oh, interesting. Very animalistic hybrids here.
Correct. Now, she's a woman of science, so she's sitting there going, what in the world what did I just see? So what she does, which is similar to like what you and I do when we go on an investigation, she's like, I'm going to follow this thing and see where it goes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I want to understand what this is. Like, clearly I can see it. I know it's there. It acknowledged me and then it left.
Yeah, I would have grabbed it by the tail and be dragged out of there. Like, I'm going with it.
So she ends up following this thing through her house and it ends up disappearing through her wall. Like it just left. So she was like, what kind of weird thing is that? So she kind of let it go and she, started thinking about all the things I think all of us think about is, well, okay, did we really see what we think? Maybe I was half asleep. Maybe there's something to it. A few days later, her daughter comes home and her daughter starts yelling and she runs to her daughter. And her daughter said she saw the same dark, inhuman creature on the stairs. And when she screamed, it vaulted over the banister and landed with a soft thud, almost as though it had padded animal feet.
Like a wolf.
Like a wolf. And then vanished into the corridor. So it was the same exact animal that she saw.
Right. So just to recap, like everyone sees like an animal person. And the first two, I thought, well, one said they saw a sheep and the other one, what did the second one said they thought it was?
They said that it was a ram and a human man.
A ram and a human man. And she sees twice a wolf human hybrid. I originally thought that people were just like misinterpreting it, but I wonder if there's multiples of these things.
That's exactly what I was curious about. Now, this is a woman of science. She followed this thing and she goes, that's abnormal. That shouldn't be in our house.
Right.
So she's like, you know what? I'm done. I don't want this in my house no more. My daughter's seeing it now. It's scary to her. I don't want what happened to the other family to happen to me.
Right.
So she ends up taking not only that relic, but every Celtic relic that she had in her house out.
Well, that seems like overkill. She knows what it was.
Well, her fear was, because I thought the same thing. I'm like, why overreact? Right. You've had all these other. Her fear was that maybe this one object coming in, or these two objects coming inside the house might have awoken other objects that was in her house, almost like a conduit.
Well, a question and a comment. The first question is, and I don't think you'll have the answer to this. I wonder, given her theory, if it was going around touching the other, like what was it doing? Was it touching the other artifacts, or maybe it was trying to wake things up?
She didn't say any of that. The only two times that it was seen in her house was in her bedroom, and then she followed it to the point to where it disappeared through a wall, and then her daughter seeing it. So she didn't even see it that time. It was her daughter.
Oh, that's right.
Fact that her daughter saw something that was exactly what she saw, it was no longer that was in my head or a dream or something like that.
Yeah. And the comment part is, I would have loved to have been at that yard sale the next day. Like all these ancient artifacts, just everything must go. $2 for this Pazuzu statue? Fine. $5 for the green man face? Yeah, I'll take that.
It was crazy. Well, and that's the thing. Once these things started popping up, she started taking stuff back. There started being kind of a little war that was happening in the scientific community, because she took them back to where she got them from, which was the university. And she's like, listen, I don't know what's going on with these. This was my experience. This is what the family said. So they started doing science examinations on it.
Okay.
And they started fighting over it. Some would say that it was a natural local stone. Another one said it was an artificial cement. And
Okay.
there was another couple people that said, yeah, this is probably from 1800 years ago. And there was other people that said, nope, this was plastered within the last 20 years. So typical
Right.
scientists, there's about 15 different people arguing 15 different directions.
Right.
And it was interesting because there was a local truck driver named Desmond Craigie, and he claimed that he had made the heads as toys for a daughter in 1956.
Did he used to own that house or something?
Yes, he lived there before.
Ah, okay. All
So
right.
after this got a little bit of attention, they're like, well, clearly that's what it is. So they asked him if he could make two heads similar to the two that he made for his daughter. And when he tried to
Mhm.
make it, he wasn't able to.
Oh, really? So he was just trying to get in on this.
That's what a lot of people believe,
Yeah.
which I find it so weird because it's like, if you didn't create it, and my guess is he said, hey, I did this. And then they called his bluff and he's like, oh crap. Like I legit can't make this thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I wonder what his ultimate goal was, because it's sort of like
That's what I'm
you're
saying.
sort of you're either diminishing the story, or you're trying to paint yourself as some kind of wizard that
Correct.
has caused all these unnatural events.
Well, and the weird thing is, it's like if he was just trying to say, hey, it's not legit. I made those for my
Mm,
daughter. Like, what's the benefit for him? Like, there's nothing supernatural at
right.
that point tied to him.
Yeah. Not to mention, it doesn't really explain all the other stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Well, anyway, these heads, they've been sitting in a drawer. They basically put these two heads in the drawer, and it comes around about 1977. They was given to a guy by the name of Don Robbins, and he was an
mhm.
inorganic chemist. Now, he was
Okay.
interested in them because he said it was a very unusual property of stone that later he connected to the idea being like the stone tape theory.
The stone tape theory. I don't know if I know this.
So there's a lot of different things that came around with the
Mhm.
stone tape theory, to where it basically, the easiest way to put it is there was a series of them. We should probably
Mhm.
do another episode on that too, because it is
Oh,
kind of an
okay.
interesting thing. Long and short of it is, he pointed to something that was in the past that kind of had similar condensations to it. And he goes, this is clearly the same thing. So he starts doing his
Right.
own test.
Mhm.
And what he wanted to do was kind of see, okay, well, if they're in my possession, like what happens to me? Right.
Right.
So he takes it home, and all of a sudden his dog becomes unusually aggressive to everybody.
Oh, wow.
It got so bad that the dog reportedly bit one of the heads. And
Oh,
yeah, so it wasn't just attacking people, but it was also attacking these stones.
right. Oh, my theory's growing. Growing.
Well, he ended up saying that the one head, which he labeled as the hag,
Mhm.
he thought it was constantly watching him. He had the sensation that his eyes was following him around the room all the time. He started having issues with his car, like electrical issues.
Mhm.
And it was only when he was transporting the heads. And you know what that made me think of?
What?
The Warrens with the Annabelle doll. Remember how they started having
Right.
mechanical issues?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and again, he started saying there's something to this. Like, this isn't just dumb luck. Like, I'm having things, my animal, my dog is reacting to it.
Right.
Machinery of all things, whenever I transport these things, are starting to have an issue. So he's basically doing all this. He can't really believe what's happening. And in February of 1978, which was a great year, by the way,
Oh, that must be someone's birth year.
that might be someone's birth year, but he gave it to Frank Hyde. Now, Hyde, he was of all things, dowser and psychic.
Oh, one of these guys. Okay.
And what he was supposed to do was to carry out a very specialized set of experiments with them. And this is kind of where the story takes a very interesting and very final turn.
Okay.
So he was going to do this research. They're all excited. They give him the heads. Shortly after taking custody of the heads, he was reportedly involved in a serious car accident. Now,
Mm.
after that moment, he disappears.
Oh, wow.
So did the heads, never to be seen again.
Well, that took an unexpected turn.
To this day, they've never been able to find a record of Frank Hyde in any reports. He's never filed for taxes. He's never done anything since that car accident. That car accident was the very last thing when he was transporting the heads. And now the heads are gone, and so is he.
Now, before that time, there was all kinds of records of him. Like, he was a legit person.
Legit person.
Okay. That's wild. I would not have expected that.
Now, the interesting thing is, some people believe that because he was a psychic medium, maybe he tapped into something that took him over, and then where he went, nobody knows. There's another set of people that believes that, well, he's in a car accident, he probably died. People found these two carved heads, threw them away, didn't assume there was anything, and just went from there.
Right.
But the fact that there's no record of any of that really makes people lean back and go, wait, what? Like, what's happening?
Yeah. It's not easy to completely disappear.
No.
Like, think about, that other story about that lady who just left her family and
25
then
years.
was found again. Yeah. So, I mean, over time, people put things together.
Exactly. And it's not like he was trying to disappear. Like, he was in that car accident, and then after that, it was like he was gone. Beam me up, Scotty. Never to be found again.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of interesting theories that happen through the communities when it comes to the actual heads, because now they can't test it anymore. Like, he was the last one to have it. These heads are gone. There's no way to prove anything. And some people says, well, that's just awful coincidental.
Right.
We start testing these things. Everyone says there's this haunting story, and now they're just gone. They're gone. Never to be seen again, not to be tested. Then there's other people that said, well, maybe they were meant to be gone.
Okay.
The best article on it was by Dr. Ann Ross, which was the first woman to have them. And she connected them to the 1800s and the Celtic head cults. Now, under the theory, the modern housing estate could have possibly been built over an ancient Celtic shrine or a sacred burial ground or possible a ritual site. So her theory was, if you was to continue to dig, you would probably find more of these. And the fact that there was a nub on the bottom, she believes that perhaps they were actually connected to the rest of a statue underneath the ground.
Right. If this wasn't some kind of supernatural cause, I would expect that if they found two randomly like that there's got to be a lot more there.
Correct. And that's kind of where she leaned. She believed that it's very possible they might have been like a shrine guardian to a degree. And she says a lot of that stuff, she didn't necessarily believe in it, but she understood the history and the theory behind it all. And she said, though she didn't believe in that kind of stuff, it definitely fit what they were supposed to do, which was protect that ground. And when they unearthed it, they were technically unearthing sacred ground.
That's somewhat similar to my theory. I think I've just got one theory on this.
There's a bunch, but that is definitely one.
Well, I'll let you do yours, and I want to see if anyone hits my one.
There's another one that they call the gatekeepers of the threshold.
Okay.
Now, in broader British folklore, carved heads often act as a gatekeeper. So for them, they view the human head as almost like a symbol of divinity, or like a bridge between the physical and the otherworldly is what they call it.
Right.
So they believe that the heads might have been buried in the back of the garden near a boundary, that may have been placed there intentionally. Now, the job was
Right.
basically to regulate the passage between the worlds, so to protect
Hmm.
like weak spots and not to allow entities on the property because
Right.
those heads of protection are there.
That pretty well overlaps with what I was gonna say.
Oh.
But there's still more to mine, so keep going.
Well, this theory also they talk about it's supposed a lot of times they also did it inside the structures too. So a lot
Hmm.
of times they would do it in like hallways or corridors or from the
Hmm.
inside to the outside. And it was basically just like a protected point. So that was one of
Right.
them. There was another theory, which was a ritual seals and anchors.
Okay.
And for those that believe, basically what they do, it's not a case where it's like a haunted object or like a symbol
Mm,
or is basically an anchor. So it's an object
mm.
designed to hold something in place.
Right.
So the heads was basically keeping a dominant force bound to that pitch of land. A
Mm.
great example of this, I don't know if you've ever watched this guy's name, Sean Ryan, super interesting guy. I think he used to be military too.
Okay. I don't
Uh,
I don't know of him, but
he just had a recent video come out. It was a short, and he was talking about when he built the ground of where his property was. And I think he
right.
stole the concept from Tucker Carlson, I believe,
Mhm.
but he buried a Bible in each corner of the foundation when they was building the property to protect the property from anything that potentially could be evil trying to come from the outside in.
Mm.
So this would be almost like a version of that to a degree.
A wholly defensive grid.
In that case, yes, in his.
Yeah, yeah.
But this one was more like, and they explained it as in apparently this happens a lot more than I thought it did in the past.
Mhm.
Apparently, even some forms of Native Americans did something very similar,
Okay.
but it was basically like protectors, some would say.
It's funny you mentioned that because a whole bunch of the lore in the TV show Welcome to Derry, which is based off Stephen King's It,
Mhm.
revolves around the natives burying things in a border
Oh,
around Derry to keep the entity inside.
oh, there might be something to that then.
Yeah. Well, you know what that makes me think as well is there could be so these brothers were digging not far from each other. Let's just imagine that, or I'm imagining me and my brother, if we were out digging, I'd be here, he'd be no more than 6 feet over in this direction because
Right.
that's what
Well, you got to
big brothers
remember.
and little brothers are like.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The oldest was only 11 that was out there, so they're going to be close
Right.
together. Yeah.
So imagine he finds one there, I find one here. If I had a third brother, let's say he's 6 feet in the other direction, maybe there's a ring of them.
Right.
Interesting theory. I like that one too.
It's kind of an interesting theory. The next one is something that we've talked about before, but not in this context.
Okay.
They call it the stone memory anchors.
Mhm.
And again, this is connected to the stone tape theory. I think we really should cover this, but the idea
Mm.
is like if you look at anything that has to do with like crystal or remember
Right.
how I said one had almost that glitter effect because of the quartz that
Mhm.
was inside the stone
Yeah.
also. A lot of times, and we've talked about this too, is it's theorized that there could be connections to emotional or spiritual or even like traumatic energy that happens.
Mhm.
Long story short, it basically gets stuck inside this crystal.
Right.
And then you bring something like that into the house and bingo, bango. Now you've got some trauma, trauma that needs some therapy on like a heavy degree.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Psychic therapy we need going on here.
Well, a lot of people said that they thought that maybe it was like ornate and it
Mm.
was used during times of like ancient ceremonies or worship or even potentially like sacrifice cases and all that stuff
Okay.
got locked inside of that rock because the amount of crystal in the
Right.
heads.
I can see that kind of thing.
So They thought that one was interesting.
Hmm.
I don't know. You know, the human head, whenever we talk about stuff like that, in which we've talked about it a few times on the podcast, you
Hmm.
know, there's something uncanny because it's a part of us, right?
Right. Hmm.
So you see this stuff, and it's kind of like dolls, right? That's why the Amish doesn't want their dolls to have faces.
Right.
And when I started looking at this, I'm like, man, it kind of makes sense when you look at all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's like a lot of people don't want, or ancient people, not ancient, but like uncontacted people think that a camera steals your soul when it takes a picture of your face
Correct.
or things like that. Or let's talk about voodoo dolls,
Right.
which are representations of people that are supposed to have power.
Correct. Well, and if
Mm,
you think about it back then, I mean, heads was rarely used for decoration. Like it wasn't
right.
typically as a ornate thing. It was typically
Yeah.
used as like a function, right?
Right.
Um, you know, a lot of times if you look at like really old stuff, and if these were from 1800 years ago,
Hmm.
I mean, it could have possibly been like think of the Egyptians, right? Like the
Right.
theory is they built a lot of those statues to basically help in what they considered, you know, the otherworldly dimensional plane, right?
Right.
So it wasn't uncommon for these kind of things to happen. So
Hmm.
I don't know. There was a theory that possibly these heads were cursed.
Okay. I'm kind of leaning away from that now, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
Hmm.
I don't know. Those are the big ones. That's what I would say is probably the biggest end ones.
Right. Are you
Uh,
ready for the right answer?
yes, I am ready. Give it to me.
Okay. So, just to reference this, I'm going to tell you a story that appeared on Canadian Heritage Television when we were kids.
Okay, I'm ready for this.
So, once upon a time, there were many ancient tribes, and they were all at war all the time. And the war was a great evil. So, they went to a wise medicine man, and he helped them in a ritual where the kids would talk to their parents in the different tribes, and he sealed away the great evil, which was actually an entity causing all this war and stuff,
Hmm.
under a tree, and it was called the Great Peace. And as long as the tree stood, the great evil would be locked away. And it's kind of funny at the end. It's in modern times, and old storytellers telling it, and the kids are like, "Does the great peace still stand?" And he's like, "You're here, ain't you?" But imagine this: there is some terrible entity, or maybe even a gate to where a bunch of these entities reside. And
Hmm.
these are the animalistic people, the part goat, part sheep, part wolf things like you always saw in Egypt and in other cultures. But these ones are evil. So they use these heads as guardians because you can't leave people there. You've got to leave these fetishized idols that are guardians of this place that you never want them to get out of.
Yep.
So accidentally, these kids dig them up and they move them away. And maybe this breaks a circle of them, and the entities are able to come out. Now, they're coming out slowly because these things sort of build and build. The plant grows, the weird plant that doesn't belong there, the orbs coming out of this area. And these heads, at first, all they did was wherever you put them, they wanted to keep sight on where they were. They're still trying to act as guardians. They're still trying to seal this away. So no matter where you put them, they're looking towards where their duty was, that they want to be back there. And
That makes
maybe if
sense.
they had put them back, everything would have been fine. But think about what starts happening as things maybe ooze out of this gateway or this location where these things were sealed.
Hmm.
Like these things start appearing in their homes, and they're smashing things. They're looking through the homes, And eventually it even escalates to that person with the dog, where what did the dog do? The dog attacked the statues.
Right. The little stone faces. Yeah.
Right. Now, initially, when I heard that, I was like, oh, the dog senses they're evil and he's trying to attack them. But there's something very key that you said about the scenario. The dogs were aggressive to everyone.
Yeah.
I think the dogs, being part animal, which these creatures are, was being possessed by them and it was trying to destroy the guardians. And think again, in the very final story, the guy gets in a car accident who had them and they disappear. They could have been destroyed at that stage. So now there's nothing sealing those entities in.
Oh, yeah.
I think they were guardians.
That is wild. That's a wild theory.
Mm.
Huh.
I mean, I just pulled it straight out of nothing and certain clues that you said. But there's other things that have been like that. Like, I think it was M.R. James wrote a ghost story in this same exact region that you're talking about, where there were Northumbrian crowns that were buried along the coast. So when the invaders came, the spirits that were with those crowns, because these are related to heads again, would drive them off. And those were the only locations where those crowns survived, that they never had invasion parties land.
Coincidence? I think not, Nick.
I think not. This has given me chills. I love this story.
It's a cool story. Unfortunately,
I think there's so much more.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, I got to put my skeptic hat on for just a minute.
Oh, no. I don't like this, Bert.
It would be unfair if we didn't at least push back with what some of the skeptics say, which we've covered some of it.
Okay.
Desmond Craigie, he's the man that said, I made him. He said that he lived at the address before the Robsons, and that he made the heads around 1956 for his daughter. He claimed that he made them out of bits of stone and mortar, and he left them in the garden himself. He made 3 originally, with 1 later being lost or damaged. And the urban prehistorian quotes Craig saying he made them about 16 years ago from bits of stone and mortar, and that he had gotten a laugh from all the attention that they were receiving. Now, it sounds like that's pretty legit, but the pushback is later when he started creating replicas, they didn't look at all like the originals when they asked him to make it look like the originals that he made. And if you look on Wikipedia, even the Wikipedia notes say that his demonstration replicas were not satisfactory similar to the original heads.
Right. So just to counter this claim too, in 2 ways. Number 1, it doesn't explain anything else of this story.
Correct.
And number 2, these were sent off and were looked at by professionals in the field.
Right.
They're gonna spot a hoax immediately unless they're inept.
Correct. Well, it's funny you say that, because there was scientific testing that leaned a little bit more modern than ancient. So Ann Ross, which was the professor, or the doctor, should I say, she was the one that said these are going back 1,800 years. And that's what her profession was. That's all she ever dealt in.
Right.
Again, her house was completely full of things just like this.
Yeah, until the yard sale.
Correct. The mass exodus of all the stuff from her house. Yes.
Right.
She had Frank Hodson examine them, and he described them as being coarse sandstone with quartz grains, possibly local stone, with hints of lime coating and pigment. But later it was analyzed by Dr. Douglas Robson of Newcastle University that reportedly concluded that the heads were made of artificial cement and were unlike any natural sandstone he had ever seen.
Okay.
Now, the other part of that said, well, The testing was obviously inconsistent. The original objects were now missing. There's no modern lab that can test them. It's great that one person said that they believe that's what it is, but there was a specialist in the form of Celtic that also said 1800 years. So what the believers say is, you got one guy on your side that says it's old. There's one guy on the other side that says it's young. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle.
Right.
Another thing they talk about is skeptics also point out that the story has a lot of moving parts that don't quite match up. Even the discovery dates, I had mentioned that 1972 is where you see most of it, but that's when the scientists got their hands. The first set of scientists got it was in 1972. So the actual theory is that all this happened in 1971 is when they found it. The discovery circumstances also varied. The boys may have been weeding, clearing out vegetation, or digging. The size description, it's not uncommon for it to move a little bit. But again, the believers say, well, give me any story that's exactly the same every single time, and that'll be a miracle, because that's not how stories work.
Right. Kind of immaterial to the case anyway, really.
Correct. Has nothing to do with the things that was happening. Very interesting one, the were-sheep. We talked about this a few times. Some people believe that was a prank.
Oh, okay.
It's probably by far the funniest skeptical explanation I've seen, and I laughed pretty good when I saw it. The Dodd family half sheep, half human creature sighting. Stuart Farrell 14 times reportedly heard of a local tale that on the same exact night that this happened, a drunk man with a stolen sheep carcass on his back had been staggering up the same exact avenue after taking it from a nearby facility.
Okay, well, I don't know what to say about that. If that's true, I guess that could explain it.
It's
but he
pretty
wasn't
funny.
in the house.
He was not in the house, no.
Right.
Obviously, it doesn't even explain Ann Ross after that, seeing the werewolf figure. So,
this just in, the man stole a wolf pelt from a wolf facility and was drunkenly staggering up her road.
I just thought it was hilarious when I saw it.
That's a reach if I ever saw one.
100%. It was funny, though. I had to laugh. Of course, skeptics are going to say Ann Ross, she's just a lying biznitch. That's all they say. She's just lying for fame and her respected Celtic scholarship. It brought attention to her, that scallywag.
I don't know. I don't know anything about her, but seems like a poor move considering the circumstances.
I would think so. Like, if that's what your entire career was, and now all of a sudden you say you're seeing a werewolf man in your house, probably not good for your career path.
Right. Exactly.
A lot of people said, just like every haunting story that we ever tell on this channel, that the media made it much bigger than what it really was. It wasn't, they wanted to turn it into a curse of the werewolf of, the UK, another story of that, which, they say that about no matter what the case is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're not going to accept it no matter what. Depends on how far a skeptic they are. So,
well, and that's the thing. They also said that there's no hard evidence of any kind of haunting. There's no photos of the creature. There's no film of the heads moving. There's no modern physical tests, no recovery of the originals. There's no chain of custody. There's none of that. The originals disappear, make the case weaker. That's what they say. Well, now they're gone. We can't test it.
Yeah.
Clearly the story has to be false. That's why they're no longer there. They knew what was going to happen, so they got rid of them.
Yeah. I don't know. The fact that they disappeared from a university, I believe it was.
Yes.
That's not like the family made them disappear.
No.
We're the ones who started it. So
I don't know. I thought it was an interesting story when I saw it. I'm like, this is definitely something I think we should cover. Where I fall on this, I believe that they could have potentially been placed there to protect the land. And when they disturbed it, the activity started kind of ramping up. If it was just a family saying it, I would say, oh, that's a really cool story. But then to have like 3 other people have things when in possession of the heads, I don't know. I think that leans into some credible grounds.
Well, when you add more people, there's an old saying that 2 people can keep a secret only when one of them is dead.
Right. Exactly.
So there you go.
I don't know. What says y'all at home? Do you think that this was some type of a real protector of the land? Do you think it was a case where maybe these things was cursed? Maybe it was haunted grounds? Maybe there's something to it. I'd just dying to know in the comments down below what you believe it might be. But do you know what's really cursed right now, Nick?
Your box opening abilities.
Doggone box opening abilities, Nick. Let's see what we got.
What have you got today?
I have a horror based. I think this is the last one. I opened one before and it was a nun, is what it was. Now I just got to find my knife. So you're gonna have to be first on this one.
Oh yeah, no problem. I've got despite my not being super excited about it, I've got Wednesday again because that's all I can get right now.
We got to find.
I do like the show. No, I'm gonna have to order online if nothing becomes available. Next weekend I'm gonna do a little bit of road tripping, so I'll have to see if there's anything on the way that I can get.
Ooh, road tripping.
All right, so today, doesn't feel familiar. They're essentially all just people. So, what do we got? Oh, she's the siren from the show. I've not got her yet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
That is cool. I've got mine open. We have today. Oh, it's it.
Is that? Oh, yeah, it's Pennywise.
Pennywise. He's got
Pennywise, the dancing clown.
He's got like, I don't know what's up with his arms. Is this a reference to something I don't understand? Looks like a little cockroach arms.
Oh, it's probably like his spider things.
Oh, yeah, you're probably
I don't know.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know. Weird choice.
I don't know. Hey, it definitely worked. I don't know. That's definitely fun. Wherever you listen to our podcast, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, don't be stingy. Tell your friends about us. That's how we continue to grow. We definitely appreciate all the love that we see on the audio, all the love that we get in the video. Until we see you in the next podcast, goodbye.
Goodbye from Deceptive Reality.